Broken crystal. I did everything you asked me, Belle, but Antonio didn't come to the door. It was ajar, so I pushed it slowly and peeked inside, a bad feeling in my gut. Don't go in, Ursula, don't go in. But I kept going, and I found myself in the middle of the room, the note crumpled in my sweaty hand, my heart pounding. I trembled, thinking of how Mom and Dad would react if they had any idea what I was doing. You know the feeling of a forbidden thing, of a great sin staining your heart? But I thought of you, Belle, your eyes red from so many tears, though the note said you weren't going to cry over your goodbye, the line in the Evaldo Braga song you liked so much. The windows were closed and the lights were off. I assumed Antonio was asleep. I didn't know what to do standing in the middle of a dark and strange room with no one's invitation to be there, but I couldn't leave without seeing him because I'd given you my word, Belle, that the note, at whatever cost, would be delivered to Antonio. I walked across the room and almost stumbled over a bunch of bottles and empty glasses strewn on the floor. I pricked up my ears. Where was he hiding? At any moment, he could pop in through the door and kick me out of his home. It would be his right, wouldn't it? I opened a window and spent quite a while watching the disorder of all those things: albums, clothes, old newspapers, everything piled up on the couch, cigarette butts, ashes, plate scraps everywhere, and on the wall, a framed portrait of the girl that wasn't you. Ah, there she was, smiling at her beloved triumphantly. Not prettier than you, Belle, believe me. The moment I saw you when you come to live with us, I thought to myself, that's the most beautiful girl I've ever met. I looked away from the photograph, a sadness pummeling my chest. Vilmira, I'll never forget the night when he kicked you out of his home and you woke me up to tell me. I'll never forget how you bit your fingernails and laughed and cried. He's going to marry someone else, Ursina, the jackass. Her portrait's there. I've seen it with these very eyes. It's hanging there on the living room wall for all to see. A girl from a nice family, just a little older than you. Can you believe it? She finished school. She knows things. He got tired of the maid, that wretch. Oh, Belle, so much suffering, so much loveliness, only to end up the way he did. I remember the day I asked you if love ever died, and you laughed as you answered, certain that yours was everlasting. When crystal breaks, it's because it wasn't real crystal. When I think of the things you told me about the nights you spent together, the kisses, the promises, the plans for the future, and the love. Ah, Belle, the love. You would tell me, when we make love, Ursina, I think I'm going to die. And you didn't have to explain anything because the words make love would echo in my ears, linger for hours in my imagination, stoke a fire in my blood. When I think of all this, of what you had and lost, then I understand how love can turn into a dark night, a beast tormenting and devouring people. That's what it did to you. Do you know when I knew for sure you'd been there? When I saw on the record player the Evaldo Braga album you were holding when you said goodbye to me last night. I saw the dedication on the cover poking out from behind the speaker, the same dedication read so many times before: to my darling pomegranate, from your beloved, always, Antonio. Why pomegranate, Belle? You never answered that question, and I would still like to know. I thought at that moment, can you imagine, that the two of you might have made up and fallen asleep together? I decided to take a peek in the bedroom. In the dark, it took me a while to spot Antonio lying on the floor by the bed, shirtless, his arms straight down the sides of his body as if he were asleep. On his chest, the medallion of Our Lady of Perpetual Succor that he had bought to protect him from all evil. I smelled something weird and thought it was booze. Maybe he'd gotten drunk because you had left and he had rolled out of bed listening to the same song over and over again. I won't cry over your goodbye. I got down on my knees and crawled toward him. Then I saw Bill, the knife stuck in Antonio's neck and the pool of blood around his body, so dark and curdled it looked like chocolate sauce. I hid my face in my hands, but he remained there, so close that if he'd been alive, he could have touched my shoulder and pulled me in for a hug. I tried to move, but all I could do was moan. I was paralyzed with fear, and what if I collapsed right on top of him of all that blood? How I managed to get out of there, I can't say. All I know is that I started backing up with my eyes closed. I didn't want to see him again, ever again. And I ended up bumping into a wall, frozen in terror. Holy Virgin, help me. I repeated softly, very softly, as if my prayer might awaken Antonio. My heart ached as if washed through with ground crystal, and my legs shook so much I don't know how I was able to walk out of there on my own. Now I'm about to walk into my home, and you're not here to hold my hand and tell me you didn't do that, you didn't kill him, because that's what I'd like to believe, Belle. If you are capable of it, then I need to start unlearning everything you taught me about love between people and think from now on that love is not that beautiful or that generous, that love is hatred too, and that when one turns into night, the other takes over everything.